We're good.
Are we? Is it ready to go?
Yeah. Oh.
No, it's not.
Oh. It was.
Now, warning.
I always said you can hear it.
Can you hear it? Oh, well, how are we going to get a hold of Tyler?
I'll call him again.
Check. Yeah, +2. Yep, we're good.
Are you ready?
I think we're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Merit System presentation. My name is Liana Kopel. I am from Cypress College. I am the department coordinator for the Communication Studies Department, and I will be facilitating or moderating this afternoon's presentation. Just so you know what the format is going to be, we will have two 20-minute presentations. First, we will hear from Fee Tran, who is a member of the CSEA Merit System Committee, who will speak about the advantages of the merit system. And then we will hear from Robert Samus, who is the Director of Human Resources at Citrus College, who will discuss the disadvantages of the merit system. After those two presentations, we will have a 20-minute question and answer period. There are cards where you can pose your questions. We do ask that you limit your cards to one question per card. So if you have multiple questions, please use multiple cards. If at any point during the presentation you've used your card and you would like another one, go ahead and just raise your hand and you will be provided with additional cards. When you are ready for your card to be picked up, you can just hold it up in the air and someone will come and collect your card. As I was requested, when we have all of the cards, I will shuffle them up to try and randomize the cards a little bit so that we can have as many cards as we can. During the question and answer period, each presenter or each side will have 1 minute to answer the question, and then we will alternate who has the opportunity to answer the question first for each question. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Fee Tran from the CSEA Merit System Committee.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. I just want to pose a couple of questions here. First, raise your hand if you know anyone, and it doesn't have to be here, it can be any job you've ever had. Raise your hand if ever in your life you've known somebody who's been hired, somebody else who's been hired because they knew somebody for the job. Raise your hand if you've known somebody else. Okay, quite a few of you. And let me pose another question. Why, if this is such a terrible thing for you, if this would not be of any value to you as classified employees, why would the district be fighting so hard? Why would they be basically telling you this is not going to work for you, it's outdated, it doesn't work, it doesn't give you any more protection? Why would they be telling all that? I just want to pose that question in your mind. And as I stand here today, you'll see that what I'm about to tell you, I truly believe in all of this. And you'll find how much I'm paid to tell you this. So, coming from the California School Employees Association, our mission, very simple, to improve the lives of our members. You here, as you classified employee, I'm a member. I'm in. I'm a classified employee just like you. We want to improve the lives of our members, our students who we serve, and our communities that we serve. And that's the mission. That's why I'm here today for you. So my name is Fee Tran, and I'm a member, first and foremost, I'm a classified employee. I work in the IT department as a network system specialist for another district, and I've been working in education for over 12 years. And I've been on the committee for almost a year. And so everything I'm about to tell you, I believe in, and all I can tell you is that they pay me 10 Express. That's my payment for today. So literally, I'm here on my own will, my free time, to let you know that we care about you and and we want you to have something better. I'm going to let Michael introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Brea. I'm the Senior Labor Relations Representative for CSEA out of your San Diego field office. I've worked for CSEA for about 10 years up and down the state, in 4 field offices, about 100 school districts and community colleges. And before that, I was a classified employee, just like you. I worked for a community college, just like you. I was the adaptive media specialist in the DSPS department for about San Diego Community College. So we're here because the chapters reached out to us and asked us to talk to you about some things that are going on. We need to find ways to fix some fundamental problems. Now, I don't need to go through those problems. I doubt I do. I think you know. I think you know what's going on. So I want to talk to you about some options, how we think we can solve some of these issues. Here's what I want to be clear about. CSEA, it would boggle the mind for us to come and tell you anything that would go against the collective bargaining agreement, the law, or that wouldn't provide additional protection for our members. We are here today as a value-added venture to give you the information you need to know why this would be beneficial to you as a member. And if we didn't believe it would be beneficial, we'd be on the other side. We do believe it would be beneficial. We are aware that your job descriptions haven't been updated in 16 years. You're coming up on 2 decades. It's time. And it's about time we have a neutral party who administers the hiring and firing processes in this college. And so that's what we're here to talk to you about.
So let's start with what the merit system is. And I'll let you read that slide. I'm not going to read it for you. It'll probably bore you, put you to sleep. But I will tell you this. The merit system is a personnel management system that basically hires, promotes, and retains employees based on merit and fitness. Let me try that again. It's a system where classified employees are based on what you know, not who you know. And this is all protected by the Education Code in addition to your bargaining agreement. And so we believe that the best qualified employees should have protection. They should be able to go through the process of being hired and through an impartial process, and they should be able to go to a neutral body when they have issues with things. So we want to make sure that those processes are followed. And let me tell you something on merit systems that everyone says is out of date. Well, guess what? They're coming back. There are 10 chapters as we speak right now that have contacted us, one of which is actually already submitted their petition and more on the way. And we also had another chapter who got rid of the merit system 15 years ago saying we didn't need it. And guess what? Family members, friends, other people started getting hired again. And they looked around and said, oh yeah, this isn't good. This isn't good. And just yesterday, a couple months ago, they voted back in the merit system. How's that? Something that's outdated they got rid of that said, hey, no merit, much better. They found out very quickly they need the merit system back. And so they voted back in. And so there's an example of what can happen when things go on like that. So we do believe the merit system provides additional protections for you. So how it works, the Personnel Commission, when the merit system is voted in, is run by a Personnel Commission. There are 3 commissioners. One is appointed by the Board of Trustees. One is appointed by the CSEA, and when I mean CSEA, you, the chapter, the members. It's not me, not Michael, it's not your executive board, it's you. You get to agree on appointing one person to that commission. And then those 2 people, those 2 commissioners, jointly appoint one person. So it's a balance of power. 3 people that are impartial, that are fair. By the way, they can't be employed in the district. So commissioners can't be employed in the district, that's one. They have to be voting members of the college district. Number 2, they can't be a board member. They can't be a county board member. They can't be even a board member in another school district or community college district. So there removes another level of partiality. It actually adds an important level of partiality, removes level politics out of that. And finally, they must be a known adherent to the principle of the merit system, which means they have to prove that, yes, I believe in impartial hiring practices. Yes, I believe that classified employees do have a fair shot and should be valued. Yes, I believe classified HR should be a transparent process. That's merit. That's merit. And those three commissioners that I mentioned, they hire one personnel director that reports to them, not to the district, not to CSEA, but to the commissioners. So that way it's a fair, impartial hiring process, fair, impartial HR process, and somebody that can be responsive to the needs of both CSEA and the district. So one of the big advantages of the Personnel Commission and the merit system is that it's independent. Education will provide for the fact that all three commissioners must be known adherents of the merit system, as I said, and the personnel director must be free of prejudgment and bias in order to make sure that the commission remains independent. Everything has to be in an open. Everything that the personnel director does has to be justifiable to the commission, and it can't be done in secret. So if it's an independent body that's separate from the board of trustees, now you have a place where you can go and say, hey, this is going wrong, and the commission can do something about it.
So when it comes to discipline, so here's where you're going to get a big value added. And if you're a confidential employee or a classified manager, I want you to listen up real intense on this particular slide, because this is where you come in and get a lot of your strength. So here's where we're at. You, as a confidential manager, a classified employee in a bargaining unit, or a confidential, are all classified employees. You all fall under the same laws, and the only difference between confidentials and classified managers and CSEA members is the bargaining unit distinction. You have a representative. Other than that, you are to be treated equal in every way. You know that doesn't happen. So here's where we're at. The merit system is going to give you an additional layer of protection. Your job should be protected, your job is protected by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. Highest level of legal infirmity there is. And we should treat it as such. So right now, the same individuals who are writing charge packets are making the recommendations to the board on what to follow through on the discipline. So right now you have an option where the discipline comes forward, you go to the tally officer, who's the same person who wrote the discipline or was involved in the discipline writing process. Then you go to a hearing officer who does not have the ability to make a binding decision. They have the ability to make an advisory decision, a recommendation, and the school board makes the final decision. Well, you have no idea what was said in closed session. What we're saying is we should change that. We should bring in a commission who's not involved in any of this, where both sides have to present to the commission in the open under Brown Act. And they should have the ability to make that decision. So when you pick someone the district picks and someone we agree on in the middle, why? So we get a fair shake.
I'm just going to throw the slide and first tell you that I really hate that. I really hate exams. And I know everyone thinks that's always said, merit system, exam. Merit system, written test. Let me tell you something. It's not always an exam. It's not always a written exam. I have been through merit system recruitment where there was no written exam. It was just interview, and you did well, all right, final interview. And so it does work. I have been in other recruitments where it's like, okay, you work in IT, please hook up this hard drive. Oh, okay, great. Okay, you passed. Okay. If you want an IT job, you couldn't do that, there's a problem. So there's a fair hiring process. You have to show somebody who already knows the job that you know the job like they do, right? Putting in a hard drive, simple thing, right? Maybe not for somebody else. So you would expect somebody to do that. So it's a fair hiring process. Again, it's not always a written exam. It's not always a written exam. And so there have been times where people have told me, oh, you're never going to get the job. You're never going to get the job. And I showed my stuff, and I got the job. And I can tell you I can't tell you how many non-merit systems that I've applied to, I was lucky to get an email. I was lucky to get a phone call. I was lucky to be told thanks, but no thanks. Every merit district that I've ever applied to, including community college district, every merit district, always got to the final interview. Always. Always got to the final interview, and I've been employed by more merit districts. So I know it works. I've been through the promotion process. It works.
So I want to say something too. I've heard some comments in some of the prior sessions that there's a concern about the diversity of the process, or bias in the process. And here's what I want to say. There's absolutely zero zilch nada that says that this process cannot be administered in someone's native language. In fact, CSEA is for individuals receiving that information in their native language. It's the right thing to do. And let me tell you, in my job in San Diego, one of the chapters I represent, a merit district, is Calexico. And out there, I'm the one that gets the translator. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And so don't worry about it. And when you're watching the presentations today, I want you to know one thing. As CSEA goes through our presentation today, you will see we give you the exact law for everything we're talking about. Don't believe me. I'm leaving at some point. Believe the law. And so when you're watching both PowerPoints today, I want you to see if there's a legal citation on there or not that you can look up on your own. It'll answer your question.
So we noticed, like we said earlier, that your job descriptions are out of date. The commission has the authority to classify, which means they can enforce the fact that you believe that you're working out of class. You believe that your job description is out of date. You're doing what your job description tells you now. So the commission has the authority to classify. It also has the authority to reclassify. And I have also been through the reclass process myself. It works. The reclassification process works. Why? Because now you have somebody else from the district saying, hey, yes, this member, this employee is doing their job and working more than their job description says. Here's your salary that other people are working at. Here are the duties that they're working at. If in the district, negotiate. So that's how the reclass process works. Somebody else comes in and basically says, yeah, they're doing more. So why not have that? Why not have somebody who can actually say reclassification is necessary more than the committee that you have now? You can go to the district and as a committee and say, yeah, we believe it, but the district could say, fine, yeah, great, you guys believe it, so what? Right, now you have another authority basically come in and say, yes, they are doing more, and you can do that. You have more input. Everything is in the open. Everything is subject to the Brown Act. Every single decision that the personnel director makes can be appealed. Every single decision has to be justified, has to be done in public. You now have a place where you can go air your concerns to someone who can then make a decision. So it's not just these two back and forth. It's now, okay, we agree with the CSEA, and you must do it. So there is a way to do it. And again, it does not violate your contract. It doesn't take away anything from your contract. CSEA still has to negotiate, and they will negotiate. Personnel commission doesn't take away any of that. So it's a really big protection for you. And it goes into the fact that the personnel commission is transparent and accountable to the people who have appointed them. And so it really is accountable to the fact that it's a public, transparent, open, again, to everyone. The public can attend the personnel commission meetings. You can attend the personnel commission meetings. You can call the commissioners. You can call commissioners directly and say, I have a problem. I need to talk to you about it. You can go in front of the commission and say, I have a problem. All classified HR operations in the city are subject to public review. And get this, an HR department solely focused on you, classified. How about that? An HR department that is board classified, the work that you do every single day, doing payroll, doing IT, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the toilets, so much more. You make this district one. You're the backbone. Why not have a department that's focused on you? You and classified alone. You have 3 commissioners that are there for the classified employees. Why not have that? You're not forgotten. We talked about promotions. I talked about my promotional experience. They do work. They do work. And let me also say this. Across the state, we did some research. The Personnel Commission, when I talk about transparency and accountability, they must publish an annual report. That is in Ed Code. No other school district has to do this. No other community college district has to do this. Merit districts have to publish their numbers. And if you call the Personnel Commission office, they'll give you those numbers. The promotion rate can be anywhere from 30 to 40% across the state. And so those, again, if you don't believe me, check the numbers. Across the state, call the Personnel Commission office. They'll tell you. They'll be happy to tell you. So promotional.
So I want to say one thing on the internal, because sometimes people are concerned about this. You are more likely to get a promotion under a merit system. And the reason is simple. One, you know the job, so you're going to be better at the practical than someone coming off the street. Two, you get extra points by the fact that you're an existing employee. So all things being equal, you win out just by the fact that you're an existing employee. And three, if you're a veteran, you get additional points too. And here's the good thing about bargaining in a merit system. I want to talk about bargaining for 1 second. So if the district wants to create a new position, they have the ability to establish a job. And in that, they get to establish a job and the duties that they need done. They have the right to get into a business. It's the unilateral unfettered management right. So what they do is they create a job description. Says, okay, I want someone who's going to do X work. That has to go to the commission. It's the commission who does salary reviews that goes and says, okay, we think this place is here on the hierarchy of all the positions within the district. They create that into a document. That becomes the district's first proposal. And so they give it back to the district, the union and the district bargain over it. And we say, wait a minute, we want to bargain the hours, wages, terms, conditions like we always have, having already captured that anchoring effect of having received a first proposal that is done under research and not assumption. So there's going to be a lot of conversation as to, well, why do you need this then? You already have a contract. And let me tell you, it's not about the contract. The contract's good. We're happy with the contract. We think that you deserve the same rights for your job that the contract gives you for a grievance. Under the contract, if you want to file a grievance, you think the contract's been violated, you have a right to go to an independent, neutral arbitrator, and their decision is binding on both parties, on CSEA and the district. What we're saying is that should also happen for your job. Why? Because your job is protected by the 14th Amendment.
So we have a lot of checks and balances, as you've heard. There's so many of them. An additional set of items in HR, an entire system of support for you classified, specific laws including the Brown Act, and the terms for commissioners are not unlimited nor permanent. You can appoint somebody else. There is a process to get rid of commissioners if they're not doing their job. So there is a level of accountability to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. So your right to file grievances won't go away, your right to file a lawsuit won't go away. This isn't about replacing rights you already have, this is in addition to those. You gain the ability to go to the commission for things, and this is why your chapter and MCAPR are advocating for this. So vote yes for better protection, more transparent HR, the ability to update your job description, checks and balances. When your manager leaves, somebody else comes in, you have protections, and we encourage you to vote yes on July 18th for the merit system. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dee and Michael. I'd like to next introduce Robert Samus, who will discuss the disadvantages of the merit system.
While they're pulling up my PowerPoint presentation, my name is Robert Samus. I'm currently the Director of Human Resources at Citrus College, your neighbor way to the north. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you for being here. A little bit of my background. I started my professional career as a CSEA labor representative. I went to law school, became an attorney. I have worked in merit system districts as a classified employee and as a manager. I have represented merit system districts, both the colleges and K-12 districts as an attorney. And for a period of time, I was a CSEA appointee to the Personnel Commission at Glendale Unified School District. And what I want to share with you today and ask you to think about is, what will I really get out of the merit system? What will it change for me individually? What will it change for my colleagues? And I think as I go through my presentation and I show you some of the areas where the commission will not bring any type of benefit added, as my colleagues like to suggest, there really is no reason for having a merit system. It's not that merit systems are inherently evil. They're just a time that is the best path. They came up as a result of issues in the early 1900s where in government employment, most people got their jobs by making a payment to someone or supporting a pool of candidates. sure all of you, I know all of you got your current job based upon your knowledge and expertise. You got hired under a system that is inherently fair. There is nothing inherent about the merit system that makes the hiring process really any more fair or different. We'll get into that. So today there are only 5 out of the 73 community college districts that have a merit system. Ask yourself why. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is Long Beach City College was the last community college to adopt the merit system in 1978. Keep that date in your mind because it becomes important. So since the 1930s, a lot has changed under our laws, the way we do business, the way we conduct ourselves in employment relations. We have Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that prohibits discrimination and ensures a fair hiring process. We have the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, which on a state level does the same thing as Title VII. We have the Educational Employment Relations Act. That's the collective bargaining law that we all operate under. That's what allows you to form a union like you have with the CBA and to negotiate work rules in your contract like you've done. There are many protections that exist for classified employees in the education code, whether you're in the bargaining unit or you're a classified manager or a confidential employee. Those rights and privileges apply to you, and the commission can't take any of that away. And then there are board policies and administrative regulations for those of you who are classified managers or confidential employees that lay out your work rules. The Educational Employment Relations Act, your collective bargaining agreement. Remember that date, 1978? 1978, right around 1978, 1979, was when the right to join a union and collectively bargain with your employer at community college came into law. So ask yourself, why then, since that law came into effect, has there not been another community college merit system adopted? The short answer is because your rights are protected by this document, the collective bargaining agreement. Your rights are bargained for and protected by CSCA as your union. As I'll get into a little bit as I go through my presentation, I think you'll see that the Personnel Commission really doesn't add anything that will change that for you or help you. So this narrative that somehow this three-body commission is going to be the value added that's going to super protect your rights really is a fallacy. Because it's your union and your collective bargaining rights that protect those for you. So one of the premises of the merit system is for some reason we need to have a fairer hiring process. And in the merit system rules, the way in which that process is designed is through a series of examinations. Typically, there's a written examination or a practical demonstration skill, an evaluation of an application, and an appraisal interview, for all of those, or just one. Now, my experience has been that in most personnel commissions, they rely heavily on written tests, particularly in clerical areas, and they will try to do two tests, a written and a performance appraisal. So, how does that work then? So if we're hiring for, let's say, an administrative assistant, what will happen is the Personnel Commission director will establish the testing, more than likely a written test and some type of appraisal with that interview. The appraisal interview is done by individuals from outside of the district. Currently, you participate in that selection process. Your peers participate. That would not be the case in our system. And the Personnel Commission director will come up with what questions to ask as part of the written exam, what pass rate would be for both a written exam and a qualified appraisal interview. So, for example, the director may set that in order to pass the written exam, you have to score 75% or more. That's pretty typical. And in order to pass the appraisal interview, you have to score 75% or more. Those scores then are combined to give you a total score, a percentage score. Everyone who has the same percentage score is put on what's called a rank. Again, the director would determine what would be the cutoff for the top three ranks. So, for example, by situation, all of those who scored 90% or above would be placed on rank 1. And that could be multiple people, right? Particularly if it's a large group. Those who, let's say, are scored 85% to 90 are placed at rank 2, and then those who scored at 80% to 85 are placed at rank 3. That list then becomes what's called an eligibility list. That goes to the district, and then they have to hire anyone from those top 3 ranks. This applies to new positions, anyone coming new into the district. It would also apply to you as a promotional opportunity. Currently, for promotions, if you wish to promote here, you have the right to ask for a promotion and you can consider before they go to an outside advertisement and recruitment. In a personnel commission, they do 3 types of tests. What's called an open and competitive, meaning it's only open to those from outside. Promotional only, or an open and promotional exam. When the commission does not believe that there will be an adequate number of people to fill 3 ranks in promotional opportunities, they will always open that process to open and promotional. In most open or entry-level type positions, it would be an open and competitive exam. So there's no guarantee that there will be a promotional only exam. There is nothing inherently fair in creating a mathematical formula to decide who gets to move forward to be considered for appointment. Because can you tell me that just because someone scored 79% on a written exam and an appraisal interview, that they're any less qualified than the person who scored in the 90%? No. It all comes down to how did you perform that particular day on a written exam. Written exams are inherently biased, and they are not a good predictor of success in employment. Right now, as I said, if you want to promote, you're guaranteed consideration and an interview, and you don't have to go through this process of trying to establish your eligibility by testing. I don't know if it's inherently fair in creating this very rigid system. And that's what the merit system will do for you in the hiring and promotion process. Everything else, all the other issues that we talk about, whether it's job descriptions, demotions, dismissals, resignations, vacation, all of these things that the Personnel Commission has the authority to adopt rules on, none of that applies to you if you're in the bargaining unit. And if you're a classified manager or a confidential employee, those are already taken care of for you in administrative procedures. All of those issues are taken care of in this document, the collective bargaining agreement. The Personnel Commission has no authority under the law to adopt any rules that are within the scope of bargaining and are in your contract. You don't want a Personnel Commission interfering with your contract. If the issue is in your contract and there is a concern about it not being applied correctly, you currently have the right to file a grievance and have the union help you with that grievance and go to binding arbitration, meaning that someone neutral makes a decision, and that decision is binding on both the district and the union. Personnel Commission can't give you that. They don't have the authority to do that. Let me talk a little bit about job descriptions. The job duties and the minimum requirements for a position, the establishment of those duties is a mandatory subject of bargaining. The commission cannot adopt job descriptions unilaterally. It cannot set the minimum qualifications unilaterally. That has to be done between the district and the union, the way it should be, and is since when? 1978. The last year America was union. So if you believe that you are currently performing duties that are inconsistent with your job description, there is already a process in your contract to deal with that. You have the right to request a review of your job description. You have the right to request a reclassification, and that request goes to the reclassification committee, which is set up with managers and peers, your colleagues. You don't need a merit system. You don't need 3 commissioners if you have no idea who they're going to be. Somehow magically take care of issues of your job description. You have that authority right now. It's bargained for, and you can use that process. Disciplinary action. I am not talking to anyone in this room because I doubt any of you will ever face disciplinary action, but it is a process that is in your contract. So if you're in the bargaining unit, the Personnel Commission cannot adopt any new rule that relates to discipline. It's in your contract. And if they were to try to change it, it would have to be negotiated. So right now, once the district itself decides they're going to move forward with discipline, you have the right to request a hearing before the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees then can hire what's called a hearing officer. My experience has been over my 30-odd years in this business that boards of trustees don't like to conduct hearings and they hire a hearing officer. The decision of that hearing officer, as is set forth in your contract, is a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. And the Board of Trustees then makes that final decision. And yes, they can go into closed session and make that final determination. In a merit system, the Personnel Commission could theoretically, if it weren't covered in your contract already, so for managers and confidential employees, they could adopt new rules. And they don't have to hire a hearing officer, they can hear it themselves. And yes, that decision is binding on the employee and the district. By the way, they don't make their decisions in open session. They go into closed session to discuss whether the evidentiary record establishes cause for discipline. You don't want your dirty laundry aired out in public. So it is not because it's inception that somehow this is done publicly and everyone knows it's going on. I tell people they want that. If this is a significant issue to you, if you think that discipline ought to result in a binding decision, there's nothing that prevents your union from trying to negotiate that. In fact, they told you today that they're very proud of their contract, and they should be. So the work rules that are in here have been collectively determined to be fair. There's no value added for you as bargaining unit members by having a Personnel Commission in the area of discipline. And for those of you who might be classified managers or confidential employees, there really isn't any value added by them. This is an area of law where your rights are protected by law, and you have due process rights, and that can never be taken away. All right. Next slide. So there really is no value added by a Personnel Commission, but there is a value taken away, and I think you need to be aware of it. Personnel commissions are not cheap. They have to hire a staff. They have to hire a Personnel Commission director who does not report to the district at all, reports only to the Personnel Commission, is evaluated by the Personnel Commission, and whether they're doing a good job or not, that's no one else's business. But that's their employee, and they have to have a staff of employees. Typically, in the community college districts right now that have a merit system, their budget just for their merit system, just for the run the operations of the Personnel Commission, will count anywhere from $600,000 to $1.3 million. it has been said that cost of having a personnel commission is about 0.5% of the total budget. Here at North Orange Community College District, that's $1.5 million, which is quite just a sheet. When the state provides our budget revenue every year through the state budget and revenues provided to the colleges, there is not a line item for personnel commission. There is no new money that comes to North Orange Community College District by virtue of being a merit system. That $1.5 million has to come out of the general fund. The existing human resources staff can't do the work that's required to do all of the mathematical testing. So they have to have staff to do that. And by the way, that staff has to go through the process that it's talked about. One has to ask, what is inherently fair about having 3 people designated as personnel commissioners? What makes them inherently less biased or more fair than anyone else, whether it's a manager or board of trustees? They're just individuals. Most of them aren't coming in roles with really any experience in human resources. So there is nothing magical about personnel commissions. Thank you. So here are some common concerns about the merit system. The testing pass rate and percentage scores of the top 3 ranks are arbitrarily established. I talked about that, right? For each of those exams, the personnel commission director determines what the pass and fail rate is, without having to establish really any basis for that. The testing often prevents qualified current employees from being hired and promoted. Your ability to promote will rest upon your ability to take examinations. Employment exams and eligibility do not ensure the best candidate is selected. I've gone through that. There is nothing that says a person who scored 79% on an exam is any more qualified than the person who scored 80% or 90%. Just means you're a good test. And then, okay, so as I said, also that all the rules that the commission may adopt, they will not be able to adopt for you as a bargaining unit member. Again, since this document is a collective bargaining agreement. So what's the value added? Really nothing. Merit systems tend to chill the ability of districts to bring in new employees and promote employees, to encourage diversity and to make sure that we are hiring in a fair way and bringing in diversity in our employment. It has been historically proven that employment exams tend to have a disproportionate impact on people from what we call historically underrepresented groups. And the written exam does not have to be in a language other than English. I have not seen a personnel commission I'm aware of ever give a written test in the language other than English. And I think I'm out of time. Let me just wrap up by saying, I believe wholeheartedly in your right to bargain and doing your duty. That's where your authority is, that's where your power is. Support your union. You don't need the merit system. The personnel commission won't do anything for you. So thank you for your time. Have a wonderful evening.
All righty, so next we're going to begin the question and answer period. Just as a reminder to everyone, we'll have 1 minute to respond to the question that is posed. And please limit your answer to the question that is posed. We don't want to pivot to something else that we want to talk about instead, or a previously asked question. When the time is, I will give you a time signal of 30 seconds, and then if you hear me say time, that will indicate that you can finish your sentence, but please don't begin another sentence.
All righty. So I'll pass the microphone back. All right. So See if I have any dexterity. If I'm going to mix up the questions, shuffle them, not enough. Mix some more. You want to go big bins like that. All right.
All right, so the first question, and, who answered the first question in the last session?
We did, but I think we'll let them.
Okay, all right. And so, Robert is being Joe White, Julie Cosmic as well to answer the question. All right, so the first question that we have, who do you think the district is trying to protect from the merit system? Classified or the district?
So it's not really a question of who we're trying to protect or not protect. I don't know any one of my conversations with the district who is, thinks the merit system is evil. It is something that works. And for all the reasons that I said, it doesn't really help you in any way. So the question is, if there are employment issues that aren't working for you, you ought to be talking to your union.
So you have to remember the reason why we have to have a pro and con session is because it's required by law. And what the district is trying to protect are current employees and also try to affect and protect any disparate impact on it that it would have on traditionally underrepresented populations. And testing mechanism within a merit system is not always a fair indicator.
That's a good question. So we've heard a couple different things because testing will limit diversity. When we've already said there's no reason at all we can't be diverse in our testing. And by the way, there's no requirement that everything requires testing. The other thing we heard is it'll be expensive, but we received no facts. We received speculation. We didn't receive any report. I'm sure the district, before throwing out these lofty numbers, would do one. So maybe we should ask for it. Because it's on average in other merit systems is 0.5%. That doesn't mean that's what it is here. We have an existing staff, and there's absolutely nothing stopping that staff from moving over or continuing to work within their current job functions. No one will lose their job because of the merit system.
All right, our second question. If it's such a great idea, why hasn't any other college done this since 1978?
Whoever does it. So it ebbs and flows, like most things. And so right now you see there's a flow heading back in that direction as the system starts to correct itself again. And so it changes. So right now we're seeing it in the K-12 system a lot, and we're getting more calls about the community college system as well. And so I think you'll see over the near future it will change. And hey, how about starting a trend here?
The reason is that you have collective bargaining. Those are where your rights are, that's where your strength is. And there are so many laws now that protect us, that make sure that the hiring process is fair and impartial. It was a time in our country where merit systems made some sense. They don't anymore.
So there is no current community college district clamoring to get into the merit system. That's why if you look at the data and the statistics, it says there's only 5 out of 73, and worse yet, 95 out of 1,026 K-12 districts. It's irrelevant. It is just a false promise to you at a very large expense. So if you think it's worth $1.5 million, go on to all the other budgets. You'll find that that's about the right amount. If you think it's $1.5 million worth to protect disciplined employees, make your decision.
All right, my third question. Please explain eligibility lists concerning job openings for the process of applying for an open job if the merit system is in place.
Sorry if I didn't do that well in my presentation, but we'll probably do it in 30 seconds. So, a written exam performance appraisal is ordered by the Personnel Commission director. The dates for those exams are posted. If you can't make it for that exam date for that appraisal interview, you're out of luck. Your scores on both of those components are determined on a percentage. It is combined. If you pass the written exam, then you pass the appraisal interview, and you go on to what's called an eligibility list. There is 3 ranks established. All of those who are within the top 3 ranks then get to be interviewed by the district. What changes for you is there's no longer a process to ensure that you are on interview panel selecting your peers.
I would definitely mostly agree with that, except for the fact that we've been very clear that not all exams, not all Personnel Commission recruitments, merit system recruitments are done by written exams. They could be any number of assessments, including just a pass-fail, show me what you know, just like I said earlier. So when it comes to eligibility lists, they're established, and they're established for 1 year. If there is an opening at all during that year, and you've already tested, you've already placed on the eligibility list, you could be up for an interview as well. And let me also say the appraisal interview process I was talking about, it usually is many times an interview period. I have been on appraisal panels myself, and I'm on the other side of the table where I was interviewed by peers as well. So yes, you can be and will be interviewed by your peers, and the list will allow you to actually wait on recruitment instead of having to go through the whole process again within a year. So it's really an advantage for people who are waiting for an opening.
Who has actual discretion in these interview panels? It's not us.
All right, next question. What are the positive highlights for classified staff?
So what do you think? You're going to have a fair system for jobs getting filled, and you're going to get additional points if you're an internal candidate. That's inherently fair because you have the experience. You've lived it. If you're classified confidential or classified manager, the same person who wrote your charge packet isn't the person making your decision. And for all the members of our bargaining unit, we get the same protection under the 14th Amendment that we get for our grievances here. That is just right. Our members spend their entire careers in these districts. It shouldn't be lost on the whim of a new manager.
I'll just say it. I'm classified staff, plenty of benefits for me. I go to Personnel Commission meetings. I talk with my commissioners on a regular basis. I make them aware of issues, not only for myself and others, and everything is done in the open. So really, I'm living proof of it. I wouldn't be here if there were no additional protections or benefits for classified employees. I'm one of them.
The short answer is, because this is my presentation, there's absolutely no value added to you. The only small scintilla that the commission can do is this idea that if they hire a hearing officer for discipline, they get to make a final decision. If that's a significant issue for you, then you should be working with the union to get into your contract. That's where it has more value. There is nothing inherently fair in 3 commissioners making that determination versus your elected board of trustees. There's nothing that says these individuals are going to be more sided with employees to make it difficult for management to hire people. But the reality is, once the case gets to that level, it's usually a pretty strong case because it's not very important. And if they deserve to lose, they're going to lose before a hearing officer appointed by the board as well.
All right, our next question. If no written test is required, what tool would be utilized to determine eligibility?
So the requirement is that you a type of test, and the ones that we talked about are the normal type of test we use. I will tell you that in all the merit system districts that I know, they always use a written exam. And in addition to that, the most common part of the exam is an appraisal interview. Now, for some areas, for example, the maintenance and operations area, at times they will do a practical exam, and that's also scored. So with all due respect, just because someone can plug in a hard drive doesn't establish that they're qualified to be the IT person.
I was the director of the Personnel Commission for Long Beach City College, and we had no bargaining unit exams that weren't written exams. So don't be fooled by a false promise that there won't be a written exam. Usually you have a written exam, a practical exam, and then an oral panel interview, which will place you on the eligibility list.
So, like I said, there are different tools that can be made, or that can be used in assessing. And let me also say about assessing an eligibility list, there are ties. There are many ties. You could have 20 people tied for first, I've seen that. Tied for second, tied for third. There are ways that you can get on the eligibility list with different exams. Sometimes it's just a pass-fail. It's just show me how you do the work. And it's not just, the example I use is just one thing, and there's a series of things that you have to do that are part of the requirements of the job description. The job descriptions are very clear. Here is what you need to know. And so those tests need to reflect those requirements that CSE and the district have agreed upon. All the Personnel Commission would do is basically verify that those are true for everyone applying on the list. So it's a very fair process.
All right, next question. California has 1,026 school districts. Why do only 9% utilize the merit system? How is the efficacy of the merit system measured?
So, it's kind of like how unions work. They make a common comment when you do my job, and it's that workers don't make unions, bad managers do. They're the best organizers. And so I'm not saying people are bad managers. You live it. You know what you're dealing with. And so it ebbs and flows, like all things. But the bottom line is this. Your union is presenting it to you and asking you for a yes vote because we think you'll get additional protections in the system and it'll become more transparent and more fair.
You should also be asking yourself, why are more districts now actively pursuing the merit system? Why are they coming to us? Why do we have a merit system committee for CSEA if it was such a small deal? There are many of us who believe in this, who want, thank you, yeah, 60% of classified employees in the state are employed by merit districts. So that's a lot of people who are employed by what they know.
So the question was about K through 12, why there are so few that area. And that's the same reason why there are so few in community college districts, called collective bargaining. Employees know that's where their protection. So in 1978, we had collective bargaining, that's where those were in college.
So the question was about efficacy, so I'll actually answer the question. There is no way to value or to assess the efficiency of a personnel commission. There's no measure of it. So what you can use is other statistical data, such as the community college districts that are not there, and also Desert Sands, Banning, South Sacramento, South Lake Tahoe, Apple Valley, Laguna, who have gotten out of the merit system. And if you want more information, you can read the report and lessons learned from Personnel Commission System losses. And that's on the California School Personnel Commission Association website. So please do your research and read.
All right, our next question. Will the merit system make it more difficult to hire short-term hourly, for example, professional experts?
So right now, under the education code, community college districts can hire short-term employees. They can hire substitutes, either to fill in for someone who's on a leave of absence or for 60 days while they're in recruitment. It really doesn't change under a merit system rule. The terminology changes. So your substitutes become limited term employees. And again, they can be hired during the period of the recruitment up to a maximum of 90 days, and that can be extended if they're still in recruitment for an eligibility list. Short-term employees are called provisional. It doesn't really change.
This is a good question. So, hourly employees. So first of all, I said there's a couple different things in the education code. So 88003 is what lays this out to currently. It'll change to 88256 when we're successful. But under 88003, you have the right, like Robert said, 60 days in a vacant position while they post, or 195 days as short-term employee one time. Except you guys know there's all these other people called hourlies. And so it's a good question. Are they illegal now? And so the chickens are going to come to roost on that someday. And we need to have that conversation. Here's what our concern is. That you have hourlies working these jobs, getting the permanent job now, because they're putting them in these hourly positions to get the experience, and then you don't get the promotion because an hourly got it, when you've been here for 10 years and they've been here for 10 days.
All right, the next question. How does the merit system affect or improve diversity in hiring? Do you have any data relating to the effects of the merit system on the hiring of culturally diverse persons?
So it's kind of interesting. So back in the day, you know, you heard Robert talk about the 3 ranks, and that's absolutely true. But back in the day, it didn't used to be that way. It was actually you pick the top 10, the top person who tested. But this does create diversity problems. And it also creates problems for people that are good on their feet versus people who are less comfortable on their feet. So it's actually the management side that lobbied to get the law changed, to change it to the top 3 ranks. Why? Because if you score within those top 3 ranks, you could get a list of 100 people. Nothing in the merit system changes the law and our requirements to be diverse. We should be diverse. It is a thing that makes us better. And that list is long enough that we're able to make those moves if we need to. Absolutely nothing would invalidate VHA or the Civil Rights Act.
Thank you. There are lots of court cases and there's lots of statistics that would show that employment exams can be inherently biased for people, whether English is not their first language or come historically underrated languages. So the problem is, where do they get the employment exams from? And there is no requirement that they go through a process to make sure that these employment exams, something what's called job validated, to make sure that they have some bearing on success. So it is an unfair process. I just want to say on hourly employees, if there's an issue with hourly employees, your union should speak up and take care of it for you.
The fact of the matter is that you're not going to have an eligibility list with 100 people on it because it would take months to interview 100 people and go through all those testing. And the fact is that examination process will have a disparate impact on our diversity efforts.
I believe this will be the last question that we'll have time for. The presenter said that he, as an outside hire, has more frequently gotten the job at merit systems than non-merit. Aren't those positions, though, an inside hire didn't get? How can my chances of being hired or promoted internally be better if his chances of getting the job as an outsider are also better? Do you
Quite a
understand?
long question there.
You can take a look at that. It's
Yeah.
your turn, right?
Yeah.
You might want to read this question.
So it's a good question, but we can't gauge anything on anecdotal evidence, right? I mean, his experience in the hiring process is unique to him. I will tell you this. Having been involved in human resources for a long, long time, being responsible for the hiring process at Citrus College, and having had the pleasure of reviewing your process, we do everything we can to make sure it's fair. We do everything we can to make sure people are treated with dignity. Some people get a job, some people don't. That's just the reality of all selection processes. At Citrus College, we opened up a classified position. We typically get anywhere from 50 to 200 applications. So we do our best to give everyone a view, make sure everyone's fairly considered. So what his practice has been doesn't really support or condemn merit systems.
Sorry.
So it says here, those positions that an inside hire didn't get, I was an inside hire. I was promoted. I came from the outside and I also promoted. So I've been on both sides of the aisle. And I've seen other people also promoted. Most of the eligibility list that we have in our district, even though they're open, even though other people can apply, the majority of them are internal candidates. And they've gotten, by the way, points, seniority points. You actually get seniority points every single time you apply for a job. So you already have an edge against people outside who are applying from within. Sometimes up to 5 points. That's a lot. So you already have an edge when you apply for the job. You are considered, and there are also promotional only lists where management would have to pick from the people on the inside only. There are enough of you qualified, you can get on that list, and maybe the management has to pick from that list. So yes, for a year, they had, it was in a year. So yes, there is a way for it. I have been on both sides.
All righty, so we have gotten to our 20-minute time limit for questions. And so we'd like to thank our presenters today. We'd like to thank Fee and Michael, as well as Robert and Julie for their time and information.
We thank our moderator, our sister from the
If you did get your question answered, I would remind you that there is one last session. I'll be back.
welcome to come back.
So if you'd like to come back and come back to that presentation, and if it's historically in the couple that we've been to, the evening presentations have been a little bit smaller audiences, so maybe there will be fewer questions. But hopefully your questions will be answered. I do understand that all the questions that have not been answered will be answered in a written form and made available to you. That information will be emailed to you, and I also understand that there are plans to post it on the website as well, so you can get answers to your questions if they were not answered today. Yes, we've been collecting all the questions.
Both sides, right?
I would assume that both sides would be given the questions and both sides would submit an answer, just like we've been doing today. That would only make sense to me. All right. Any other questions about procedure? All right. Well, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, everyone.
Answered, but